From ancient scrolls to modern classics, welcome to Whispers of Japanese Tales.
This video is a continuation of the previous one. If you haven't seen the previous video yet, be sure to check it out first before watching this one. Firebird by Osamu Dazai. Sashio boarded the train once again. The incident involving Suzuki Otohiko was reported in the newspapers, and even Sashio's photograph was published as his mistress. Eventually, her uncle from her hometown came to Tokyo, and with the involvement of the police, Sashio was left with no choice but to return to her hometown with her uncle. One could say she was a woman in ruins. Seeing the mountains and rivers of her hometown for the first time in 3 years filled her with a profound, bone-deep sorrow. "Uncle, please, I promise to behave from now on. I must behave, so, please don't scold me too much. I don't want to see anyone from town or any of my friends. Please hide me somewhere. I'll be as quiet as you want, I promise." Like a girl of 12 or 13, Sashio repeatedly pleaded with her uncle in the train. Among her relatives, this uncle was the only one who showed some pity for Sashio. He agreed to her request. At a station 2 stops before their hometown, the uncle and Sashio quietly disembarked. From the small mountain station, they traveled for about 20 minutes in a horse-drawn carriage along a winding mountain road until they arrived at a hot spring resort nestled in a valley. "Listen, for now, stay here. I won't say anything more. I'll explain things to the family in a way that won't trouble you. You'll be 20 next year. While you're here, take your time soaking in the hot springs and think carefully about your future. Have you ever reflected on your ancestors? Your family lineage is far more distinguished than mine. If you were to do something rash, the Takano family would end with you. You are the only one left carrying the Takano bloodline. A family lineage is something that must be cherished. One day, when you've gained more humility and are able to let go of certain things, you'll realize how much a family lineage can give meaning to life. Let's restore the Takano family. Let's carry ourselves with dignity. This is not just my plea, it's your sacred duty as well. While it isn't much, there is enough wealth in our family's possession to help you establish a household of your own. What happened during your 2 years in Tokyo may turn out to be a lesson that strengthens you for the rest of your life. Forget the past, though it may be difficult, but remember that people live with deep wounds they must never touch, enduring them as though they do not exist. That's what I believe. For now, remain quiet. Don't try to cure your pain with distractions or stimulation. It takes time, but nature's way of healing is best. Be patient and stay here for a while. I must return home now and report to the family. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble. I'll leave no money with you. If there's something you need to buy, let the inn know. I'll arrange for them to provide it." With those words, her uncle left, leaving Sashio alone. Carrying a lantern, she descended the 300 or so stone steps, quietly counting them in a soft voice, 1, 2, 3, until she finally reached the open-air bath at the bottom of the valley. Placing the lantern down, she immediately saw the white, undulating flow of the mountain stream running beside her, and an old water wheel came into view, faintly floating before her eyes. She was exhausted. As she soaked silently in the bath, her pain, humiliation, and restlessness all blurred and faded away, leaving her in a blank, dazed state, almost like an idiot. Despite the shameful state of her life, there she was, strangely entranced in this moment. Perhaps this was her defeat. But even so, isn't it acceptable, at least occasionally, for a person to find themselves entranced, even at the depths of their suffering? The water wheel moved its heavy body little by little, and a cluster of wild chrysanthemums trembled beside the lantern. She was so utterly exhausted that she wished she could simply melt away. Yet, she would soon have to take the lantern, climb the stone steps one by one, and return to her room. The inn was quite large. A long, pitch-dark corridor lined with over 10 rooms stretched out, with the occasional room faintly illuminated behind shoji screens, signaling the presence of guests within. The first room was dark. The second room was also dark. The third room was bright, and as its shoji slid open. "Sachin. Who is it?" She was too drained even to feel startled. "Ah, I knew it. It's me, Miki Asataro." Historical. "That's right, you remember well. Come on in." Miki Asataro, aged 31, had thinning hair but was engaged in flashy work. He was a playwright, and his name was somewhat known. What a surprise. "Historical?" Miki Asataro gave a wry smile. Historical was his catchphrase when he was drunk, and the bar girls in Ginza had taken to calling him Mr. Historical. "Indeed, truly historical. Well, have a seat. Want a beer? It's a bit chilly, but hey, a drink after a bath. It's not a bad idea, is it?" In Mr. Historical's room, manuscript paper was scattered all over, and 5 or 6 beer bottles were lined up next to the table. I sit here, drinking alone, working bit by bit, but it's no use. I can't help but feel like everyone else is better at this than I am. I'm finished. It's all over for me. If I can't finish this piece, I can't go back to Tokyo. I've been holed up in this mountain inn for over 10 days now, struggling terribly, in a state that's beyond redemption. Just a while ago, the maid told me you were here. I was stunned. My heart stopped dead in its tracks. I thought to myself, is this a dream? Gently gazing at the small figure of Sashio sitting quietly across the table, he said, I just keep saying foolish things, don't I? That's truly historical. It's embarrassing. My heart's racing, and I can't do anything about it. Lowering his eyes, he poured himself some beer, drinking it alone. You should have confidence in yourself. I'm happy, so happy I feel like crying. There was no falsehood in her words. I understand. I do, Historical said hastily, but it's good. It must have been hard for you, right? That's okay. It's all okay. I already know everything. Everything. Even about that recent event, I wasn't surprised at all. You're someone who is bound to reach that point at least once. You're someone who needs to go through it and come out the other side. Your love, it has no bottom. No, it's your sensitivity. It's almost astonishing. With most women, I can get by with some half-hearted pleasantries, and that's enough. But with you, I can't do that. You understand too much. I can't let my guard down around you. Why is that? It shouldn't be possible to have such an exception. No, women, she said, taking a sip of beer from the teacup he offered her. We're all clever. We know everything. Absolutely everything. We know when we're being treated carelessly, when we're being deceived. We know it all, and yet we pretend not to, acting like children, like female animals, because it's more advantageous that way. Men are so honest. Even though everything about them is plain to see, they still seem to think they're fooling women somehow. Dogs can't hide their claws, can they? Once, I was standing on the platform at Shimbashi Station late one autumn night, waiting for a train. A very sleek dog, a fox terrier, I think, ran past me. As I watched it go, I started crying. With every step, you could hear the click-click-click of its claws on the platform. When I realized that dogs can't hide their claws, its honesty struck me as so endearing. And then I thought, men are just like that. That thought made me even sadder, and I couldn't stop crying. I was drunk, of course. How foolish of me. Why do I have such a soft spot for men? I think it's because I see them as weak. If I could, I'd make myself 100, 1,000 times larger, just to protect all the men I could. Men are so pitiful, always pretending to be strong. True femininity, I believe, lies in the strength to protect men. My father used to tell me that women should be gentle. He left before he could teach me much else, but I've come to think that a woman's gentleness. She suddenly paused, raising her head like a startled deer, her ears straining to listen. Someone's coming. Hide me, just for a little while, she said with a grin, sliding open the sliding door of the closet behind her. While still seated, she deftly slipped her body inside. All right, now, back to your work. Sure thing. Is this another one of a woman's disguises? Historical smiled, his expression keen and perceptive as ever. Those footsteps aren't coming to this room. Come on, stop doing something so undignified. Let's just talk calmly, he said, adjusting his own posture as he sat properly. Though he was thin and small-framed, the large eyes behind his iron-rimmed glasses and his high-bridged nose lent his face a certain refined shadow. There was an air of cultured dignity about him. Do you have any money? Sashio murmured, standing absent-mindedly in front of the closet. I'm so tired of this. Talking to you in a place like this makes me miss Tokyo so much it feels like I'm dying. It's your fault. With your pretentious talk about my love and whatnot, you've stirred me up. I'd been doing a good job forgetting. Forgetting my misfortune, my filth, my helplessness, all of it. But now it's all come rushing back at once. Tokyo is wonderful, isn't it? There are people there who are even more unfortunate than I am. Even more disgraceful. But they live, laughing together without preaching to one another. I'm still 19. I can't live in some resigned, frozen ego. It's too cold for me. You're planning to run away, aren't you? But I don't have any money. Mickey gave a fleeting, faintly vulgar smile, then lowered his head in thought. It was a theatrically exaggerated and drawn-out display of deliberation. Suddenly, he raised his face and said, I'll give you 10 yen. His tone was almost angry. You're a fool. I've cherished you deeply, more than you realize. I can't stand to silently watch you hide in a closet like a frightened, pitiful creature. Giving you money now might make me a thoroughly immoral man. But this is a pure impulse on my part, and I will follow it. I don't know what consequences this will bring. Only God knows that. But to those who live, there is a right to act. Do as you will. The guilt is not ours to bear. Thank you, she said with a sly smile. You're quite the liar, aren't you? That's truly historical. Sorry about that. Well, see you later. Miki Asataro forced a pained smile. On New Year's Day of Showa 6, 1931, snow fell in Tokyo. It began to flutter down in the early hours and continued until around midday. Shortly after noon, in the shade of the thickets at Toyama Field, a man wearing a coat with the collar turned up, hatless, and smoking a cigarette while pacing irritably, could be seen. This man appeared to be Tsukishiro Zenkoji. Suddenly, from behind the grove, another man, short in stature and dressed in a double-breasted coat, appeared. It was Asataro Miki. What a fool. He's already here, Miki muttered, seeming to be drunk. Is he really planning to go through with it? Tsukishiro said nothing, discarded his cigarette, and removed his coat. Wait, hold on, Miki grimaced. You filthy scoundrel. What exactly are you planning to do with Sashio? If it's just to take her by force, to call me out to Toyama Field, to cripple me, well, I can't be your opponent under such circumstances. Without a word, Tsukishiro lunged at him. Stop it, Miki leapt aside. You've lost your mind. Listen to me carefully. Last night, I went too far. I said things I shouldn't have. The two had been drinking together at a bar in Shinjuku the night before. They were already acquainted with each other. Miki had carelessly mentioned something about a mountain inn in the Tohoku region, letting slip a detail about Sashio's body. Then came the demand, hey, where's Sashio? I don't know. Liar, you're the one hiding her. Cut it out. You're making a fool of yourself, all lust and no reason. From there, it escalated. Fine, I'll take her by force. Come to Toyama Field. I'll cripple you if I have to. Miki, pale, reluctantly agreed. They parted ways the previous night, setting a meeting for noon on New Year's Day. I know where Sashio is, Miki said, as if trying to appear calm. He took out a cigarette and struck a match. The breeze that swept across the snowy plain blew out the match flame 2 or 3 times before Miki finally managed to light his cigarette. But let me be clear, there's nothing between her and me. She's currently throwing herself into her studies, working hard. I think that's good for her. The only thing she has is her overflowing sensitivity. To organize and unify that, to translate it into action, I believe she needs education. She needs wisdom. A wisdom as clear and calm as a mountain lake is necessary. Because she lacks that, her actions are always chaotic. For example, she gets entangled with someone like you and finds herself unable to move forward. Aren't you ashamed? Tsukishiro sneered. Don't spout lines that sound like you memorized them this morning. Studies? Education? Aren't you embarrassed? Miki froze, startled. Unintentionally, his cheeks flushed. This man knows everything. What an unpleasant bastard. Fine, I'll take you on. I instinctively hate people like you. I'm fated to be repelled by you. But I'll ask one last time, what do you plan to do with Sashio? The cigarette Miki held had already gone out. He kept puffing on the unlit cigarette, his fingers trembling. There's nothing to plan or not plan, Tsukishiro replied, now unexpectedly calm. I'll track down where she is, and I'll take care of her in my own way. Listen, that woman can't live without me. I'm the only one who truly knows her. And you? You're bragging about one single night at some mountain inn, acting all high and mighty. But after that, she hasn't even looked your way, has she? That's the kind of woman she is. Miki, despite himself, nodded. It was exactly as Tsukishiro said. But listen here, Tsukishiro said, stepping forward with renewed vigor. Even that one night, I won't forgive you for it. I can't stand it. How dare you? How dare you? Fine, I get it. I'll take you on. I can't stand you either. You're an unbearably conceited bastard. Miki flicked away his cigarette, removed his double-breasted coat, then his haori. After a moment of deliberation, he began untying his wide sash, unwinding it thoroughly, and even stripped off his kimono, leaving himself in just his shirt and undergarments. To think you can only see women in terms of their bodies, how pitiful. That kind of filth clings, you know. If I wrestled with you and soiled my kimono, no amount of washing could ever remove the stain. What a nuisance. As he spoke, he removed his tabi socks, cast aside his tall wooden clogs, and finally took off his glasses. Come on. The sharp sound of a slap rang across the snowy field, echoing through the trees. It was Tsukishiro's right cheek that had been struck. Without a moment's pause, another slap rang out, this time to the left cheek. Tsukishiro staggered. It was an unexpected and forceful attack. He grunted, steadying himself, lowering his hips, and spreading his arms in a defensive stance. He was still confident. If they grappled, the fight would be his. What's this? Some countryside bumpkin wrestling match? Mickey sneered. He kicked up the snow and swiftly moved to Sukeshiro's left side, delivering a sudden strike aimed at Sukeshiro's jaw. However, the attempt failed. Sukeshiro swiftly grabbed Mickey's fist and, in an instant, executed a flawless shoulder throw. Mickey's lightweight body flipped once in the snowy air before landing with a thud. "Damn it, that was a neat move," Mickey muttered, even as he sat on the ground. With all his strength, he kicked Sukeshiro's lower abdomen. "Ugh," Sukeshiro groaned, clutching his stomach. Staggering to his feet, Mickey then aimed directly at Sukeshiro's forehead and slammed his own head into it with a resounding thud. The fight was decided. Sukeshiro collapsed onto the snow in a nearly spread eagle position and didn't move for a while. Blood poured profusely from his nostrils, and both his eyes began to swell rapidly, turning a deep purple. Hidden in the shadow of an oak tree far away, wearing a bright red, trailing coat and clutching a Japanese paper umbrella tightly to her chest, a woman watched the scene with fear in her eyes. It was Sashio. The day after that incident, Sashio returned to Tokyo. However, she neither pursued her studies nor engaged in any sort of academic endeavor. She had a friend who had previously worked at the same bar in Ginza and now worked at a dance hall in Kanda. Sashio ended up staying at this friend's apartment in Yotsuya. She spent her days knitting, doing laundry, helping with meals, and passing the time in such ways. She didn't seem to be in any hurry to find a job. It was clear, though, that she had no desire to return to working as a barmaid. Before long, Asataro Miki came back from the mountain inn. Somehow, he managed to learn where Sashio was staying and tracked her down. Smirking, he asked, "How about becoming an actress?" Sashio merely laughed and replied, "Oh my, how dramatic," without taking him seriously. Even so, Miki did not give up. From time to time, he would casually stop by the apartment, leaving behind a book or two of plays by Strindberg or Chekhov. That morning, Sashio received a phone call from Miki, who told her about the incident at Toyama Field. She discussed it with her dancer friend, saying, "Men, honestly, there's such trouble," before deciding to head to Toyama Field anyway. Braving the muddy paths left by the melting snow, she finally arrived around noon. What she saw was Asataro Miki, clad in nothing but his shirt, being hurled into the air by Sushiro's brute strength, spinning once before coming down. Sashio burst into laughter by herself. As she watched, it looked as if two small puppies were playfully tumbling over each other in the snowy field, entirely lacking the fierce intensity she had anticipated from a duel. Even the two men seemed to be laughing as they fought, leaving Sashio feeling oddly deflated. Before long, Sukeshiro was toppled over, and Miki sluggishly mounted him, striking Sukeshiro's face repeatedly. Suddenly, a wail, reminiscent of a cuckoo's cry, escaped from Sukeshiro. Sashio suddenly darted out from the shadows of the trees and ran toward Miki, swiftly closing the distance. Throwing aside her umbrella, she slapped Miki hard across the cheek. Miki turned to look at her and gently smiled. "Oh, it's you." Standing up, he began briskly putting his clothes back on. "Do you love this man?" he asked. Sashio shook her head vehemently. "Then, forget about that sentimental sense of justice," Miki continued, adjusting his appearance and returning to his usual, somewhat affected, historical manner. "Listen, pity and love are two different things. Understanding and love are also two different things. Now, let's go. You should be more selfish about your likes and dislikes. It's okay to be that way. If you don't like someone, then that's it. No matter how much you try, you can't make yourself like them." Sukeshiro lay on his back, covering his face with both hands, groaning and crying in an unusual manner. Miki, still tucked inside his double-breasted coat, had moved a little ahead. As Sashio turned to look back, she was startled. Sukeshiro was sitting cross-legged in the snow, using the blue paper umbrella with a willow pattern design that Sashio had left behind as kindling for the bonfire, the flames roaring as the umbrella burned. The crackling sound of the umbrella's ribs burning was clearly audible, and Sashio felt as if her own body were being cremated right there.
Until we meet again, may the stories of Japan inspire your days. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales.